Welcome back to the Broad Street Benchwarmers podcast. My name is Adam Den. Mike and Ethan, unfortunately, could not join us today. We've just been really busy with sports and work and school and all that, so that's why we haven't been as active the past couple months. But I just figured I'd come on, just talk a little NBA, just because we haven't in a while, and I really wanted to talk about this first round of playoff games that has been incredibly exciting so far. As I watched this Utah game, which is not quite as exciting so far. But yeah, just to get right into it, Sixers-Wizards just finishing up. JoJo with a nice 36 and 8. Beal and Westbrook 25 and 26 respectfully. And, yeah, just a series in which the Wizards seemingly have just been completely outmuscled. And, I mean, the size of this Philly team that we have, and on certain nights, just the amount of post-ups they can get on a lackluster group of bigs for the Wizards with Daniel Gafford and Robin Lopez are going to be a tough matchup always against Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, and Ben Simmons. And just the cohesiveness, I think, of this starting lineup so far, honestly. I mean, the bench hasn't been good. It just really hasn't, Shake Milton has not been able to provide an offensive spark in the minutes that he's gotten. Matisse has been okay, I will say that, defensively. But yeah, this starting lineup has just been so incredibly solid, holding down the fort. Danny hit, I think, 5 threes tonight. Seth had a great game as well. They're just continuously dominating, and holding that bench together. And hopefully as the rotations get shorter, as playoff time comes, as we know they will, you're not going to be playing 10-man rotations, hopefully, in a full 48-minute game against the Brooklyn Nets or the Milwaukee Bucks. It just doesn't make much sense. So hopefully, blowing them out tonight will hopefully get them healthier. And, yeah, just a really, really solid win overall. So then to go next up, the game before that, Blazers-Nuggets. I actually fell asleep during this one. This is how bad this got. Just to see the MVP, kind of stifled, was really interesting for me. It really was. Jokic had, I think, 16 and 7. Just did not look the same. Nurkic outplayed him, to be honest. And I've been on Nurkic all series. But yeah, defensively we know he's not going to make the incredible impact that, say, a Rudy Gobert or a Joel Embiid will. That's just not the player he is. He's a playmaker and a premier offensive scorer. But with the doubles that they were throwing at him today, and just him not really having a second scoring option, Michael Porter Jr. had 3 points today. On terrible efficiency. I think it was 2 for 10, something like that. Just awful. And, there's no way they can win this series against a Portland team that's been so hot from the three-point line. They had trouble scoring in the first half as well, but they just took off in the third quarter, seriously. Norman Powell had 29. Dame had 8 points at halftime. He finished with 21, and they were still able to get it done. So, yeah, they just have so many guys on the wing that can do it. Portland does. I was very unimpressed with them during the regular season, but I've been very impressed with how they've matched up with this Denver team in this series. And, I think this may be one of the most exciting ones. I think, this is one that could definitely go 7 games, just because I don't think you're going to be able to stifle Jokic the way that they did every single night. I think there's going to have to be some kind of adjustments in which a second option is put in place, where Michael Porter Jr. is going to have to really step up. But yeah, that's just a really, really solid series overall, and I'm really looking forward to that, despite the game today. Um, Even more exciting, Clippers-Mavs. Um, Luka Doncic, I've gone on record and said he's not a top 10 player in the NBA. I think I have to take that back. I really do. I don't know. I mean, let me think where I'd. Would I put him over Kawhi at this point? I probably can't put him over Kawhi. Um, but yeah, it's hard. It's hard to put him top five. I will say that. But just the scoring that he provides nightly, at the age of I think he's 21, is just so unbelievable. He had 44 last night. He had what was it? Was it 50? Game two, and you know, he's just no, it's 46, 46, and he's just just his ability to create separation at his size, his speed is incredibly underrated for a guard of his size again. And when the rest of that Mavs team, Tim Hardaway and Porzingis, were a combined 5 of 14 in the last quarter of that game. So when these guys continue to step up, kind of similar to Denver, that's going to be definitely something to watch out for. But Porzingis has just been terrible throughout these playoffs, and I don't really know what's up there. Just he's kind of transformed into just this spot up stretch four, but being paid $30 million, and it's not good at all. And defensively, he's never been completely lights out. He has the height and the length to possibly be a good defender, but he is kind of slow. And so I don't really know. I feel like, honestly, that Dallas team, should win this series in 6 games, just with the leverage they've had. But then again, the Clippers last night, just Kawhi and PG just taking over. Pandemic P. You can make as many jokes as you want. But he had a fantastic game. They did do like I said, a better job of closing out on the wings, and forcing. I mean, you can't stop Luka. They don't have an answer. They've literally tried everything throughout the series. They had Morris and Zubac in the first game, just being thrown at him at the top of the key. That wouldn't work. They were throwing Paul George at him, supposedly an All-NBA defender, and that was just, they were just unable to make that work as well. And even throwing Kawhi at him late in games. Just plugging in my computer. Even throwing Kawhi at him late in games. But Kawhi, he can only play a certain number of minutes in a game. I mean, with the injuries that he's sustained throughout his career, he's basically become a 35 minutes per game guy. So it's hard to just throw him out there at the end of the game. I can't say they did a better job. I mean, he did drop 44. But their offensive cohesiveness was a lot better. This was the number 1 3-point shooting team in the league. They did hit a lot of threes the other night. So I will definitely look forward to that game tomorrow. Or today, probably, is when you'll be watching this. So then to move on to Celtics-Nets. I was not expecting this last night to be... I was expecting a Brooklyn blowout from the start. Just the way Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving came out strong. But Jason Tatum, just 50 points. Evan Fournier had 23. Just had a lot of guys out there doing their job. And you can't really argue with that. And I mean, yeah, just another young superstar with the ability to take over. They had KD on him for some of the game. He just couldn't be stopped from beyond the 3 point line. And Brooklyn's bench as well. I mean, a big deal has been made about the depth that Brooklyn team has going throughout the playoffs, and they definitely did not show up. I will say that Nicholas Claxton only with 4 points. Joe Harris was the leading scorer coming off their bench with 8. It's just it was not good. A good showing for them, and I feel like as the rounds go on, they do go on to face Milwaukee, who we will get into later, with the way that their bench has been playing throughout these playoffs against that Miami Heat team. That could be an issue, just getting scoring from them. And defensively, obviously, as well. I mean, Blake Griffin was horrendous last night at the 4, guarding Tatum as well. So, yeah, that actually makes that series a lot more fun going into that 7 o'clock TNT game. I wasn't totally sure why they were putting these games in primetime, to be honest, just because it seems kind of like a series that should be Brooklyn all the way. But yeah, that is definitely going to be a fun one now. And so I might as well just go into the Bucks now. They go on to sweep the Miami Heat. This was a series a lot of people wanted as their little upset pick, obviously with what Miami did to the Bucks last year in the what was it? Was it the divisional? Nah, yeah, it was the divisional. But yeah, Giannis with 20, Middleton with 20. Bam had a better but still not fantastic game. It's just been a really tough series for the Miami Heat. This is a team that I know a lot of people had very, 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 very high expectations for, and why wouldn't you after an NBA Finals run? But I think the fact is, this is still a very young team with a lot of promising depth, and that's about as far as it goes. They're still a playoff team, but I think, they may have reached their ceiling with the current roster that they have. Bam Adebayo, I think, is a solid all-star player, but he still has a lot of kinks in his game offensively. Him posting up was a serious problem with Brook Lopez's height throughout all 4 games. Jimmy Butler is definitely a superstar who can still do all the little things for you. But he can only do so much with the way his supporting cast played. And Tyler Hero, everybody wants to make the jokes about it. But again, the bubble was just a different environment, and there were certain guys who were just, built for that. And we look at guys like T.J. Warren, guys like him as well. Just the shooting streak he was on. Personally didn't expect that to continue. I thought he would be better than he has been. But he is still in his second year, and he might not be a James Harden piece, that you wouldn't trade for James Harden, as the Miami Heat refused to. But I think he can still be a solid role player in the NBA, which is still completely different from the role you wanted him in. So if I am a Heat fan, I am looking back at that James Harden trade. But again, I can't talk as a Sixers fan. So yeah, but going into free agency, they do have $30 million in cap room to get a max contract, or 40, 35. But yeah, they have max contract room. So I do expect them to peruse the market. Maybe even like getting Oladipo back would help. I know he's not the same dynamic player that he was a couple years ago, but that could be. And I mean, it's just a constantly evolving NBA with the trade requests and the teams, uh, trying to keep these superstar players and the shifting. And the good thing is Miami is known for the incredible environment that they have. So if we're gonna take, one positive going into the future, it is that this team will definitely improve, and I think almost definitely have a third, I wouldn't say star player, but a better third option than Tyler Hero was this season, going into next season. So as far as the Milwaukee Bucks, I mean, this is what we wanted a year ago in a complete contender. Yeah, Giannis, despite all the playoff jokes, and he wasn't really awful 2 years ago. I think people forget that. Kawhi just had a fantastic series. But yeah, he has just managed to step up somewhat. I mean, it's still an issue, the spacing. Teams are still guarding him the way they have in the playoffs. But having Drew Holiday just as that do everything, he can run through pick and roll. He's a great perimeter defender. Great hustle. He's a great rebounder for a guard. He's just everywhere on the court, and he helps them so much. And as well as Chris Middleton, who I think had a really good series. I think he was the Milwaukee Bucks closer pretty much, and that really helped from scoring as a scoring presence. And he's definitely going to be a huge factor to their title chances. They just had Dante DiVincenzo go out to injury, though, and that is a blow. Their bench, they're going to have to give Bryn Forbes a ton more minutes. But Bryn Forbes was fantastic today. He had 16 points. So it's going to be interesting going forward how that affects their bench. But I still trust them totally. And they're definitely, I think us, them, and Brooklyn are definitely those three playoff teams to watch out for in the East for sure. And yeah, they're all the finals teams. It's going to be one of them, if that wasn't already obvious. But yeah, to go to the other series in the East, Knicks-Hawks. The Knicks just, don't have a true offensive scorer to compete with Trae Young, who has been the best player in the series. I love Julius Randle. It's been a fantastic story, an amazing comeback for him. But he's honestly been awful throughout this entire series. Just had 14 and 11 last night. And just the doubles and forcing him to play make. And other guys not being able to step up outside of D. Rose as the primary playmaker. It's just not been good. And I know it's only a 2-1 series, and really shouldn't overreact. But this is an Atlanta Hawks team that has not been great defensively throughout this entire year. I think they're, not bottom of the league, but for a playoff team, I think they're like 15th or 14th. So it's definitely tough to watch, especially, rooting for the Knicks fans to finally have some happiness, and also wanting to see the Knicks in the second round because of said offensive struggles. But Trae Young has just developed so much as an offensive scorer throughout his 3 years in the league. It's so underrated. He has been incredibly efficient throughout this entire series. He's really stepped up. And as much as the foul thing annoys some people, it's a skill. James Harden does it. Joel Embiid does it. It's something that's becoming part of the game. We just have to deal with it. But he is fantastic at it. And they're shockingly deep. Bogdanovich has been fantastic. Gallinari has been awesome, except for game one. Game one, he was very not awesome. So yeah, just overall, a really, really DeAndre Hunter. I forgot him. Also, really solid as stretch three. Just a really, really solid team, especially in the offensive end. And I think it's a team that could take us to 6. I really do. I don't think it's a team that can beat us, but I think it's definitely a team that could take the Sixers to 6 and give them a little bit of fight before they take on Brooklyn or Milwaukee. So definitely watching that team a lot, and they're very fun to watch, so they make it easy. So yeah, to finish it off, because the Utah game's going on right now, it has closed down a little bit. Ja is doing his thing. But Donovan Mitchell, having him back for Utah is huge. Just providing that scoring. I mean, I think their leading scorer in the other game that they lost was Ingles. Yeah, just not good. But yeah, Suns Lakers to finish it off. And I was a little scared for Phoenix's series. I really was. And I still am, just after what I saw last night. Anthony Davis finally showed up. Yeah, AG just dominated, and it was great to watch, to be honest. Just to see that Lakers team kind of get their mojo back, to get, the kind of aggressiveness that it seemed like Davis definitely lacked, with Aiden kind of forcing him onto the outside and the perimeter, and LeBron kind of having to take control of the offense. Still, I mean, that Lakers team continues to thrive as a threat for the title, and Phoenix, I mean, is still definitely in the series. I think the injury of Chris Paul has so affected that team for sure, and that shoulder injury, and there's a great argument for the fact that they should have won at least Game 2 if Chris Paul is fully 100%. So I do believe that they still definitely have a chance in the series, especially if Chris Paul heals his shoulder. But if not, just with the cohesiveness he brings, I'm not sure. Booker still has been fantastic, especially for his first playoff series. He only had 14 the other night, but the other 2 games he's been fantastic. Ayton continuously. Jay Crowder is a problem, especially with the way LeBron just kind of bullied him. But, you can't really expect this rotation for Phoenix to guard AD and LeBron James. It was just a bad first-round matchup. So if you're a Suns fan coming out of this, I would not call the season necessarily a loss. Just a really bad matchup overall. And but if they do come out of this, I think either of these teams, 2 teams, honestly, for me, is going to be who wins the West, personally. Just because, I mean, for me, they just seem like the most talented, and the most consistent overall. So that's really why this is probably the series I'm most looking forward to, and why this is such a battle, honestly. So yeah, I think those are all my thoughts. No, that's a lot. Probably eclipsed what I thought my runtime was going to be. But yeah, I guess I'm going to go finish watching this Utah game. Hopefully I don't fall asleep during that too. And yeah, thank you guys so much. We will be back with more NBA content very soon. And Mike and Ethan will be back. So yeah, awesome. See you guys.